Hey, Dream Babes. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy New Moon in Taurus. I'm super excited to share this episode with you. I have Molly from the Firebrand Witch with me this week, and we talked about all kinds of really cool stuff. We talked about reclaiming the word witch, doing magic at college, what astrology means to us, creative morning practices, Patreon as a way to support independent makers, identifying with tarot cards. So there's all kinds of really cool stuff in this conversation, and I really hope that you're enjoying it. I don't want to talk too much, but just wanted to say again, thank you so much to all my Patreons. You're making this work possible, and that means that there's more episodes coming your way now, and that's really amazing because I think that's what we need, more conversations that are healing and connecting people. So as you might know, there's a few changes in my business. I'm in my 4th year now, which just feels really good and amazing. And yeah, I'm just feeling so lucky that I get to do this work. And I've been thinking a lot about how we traditionally launch and do online marketing and how much I really enjoy questioning that and doing things differently and really to prioritize sustainability, not to burn ourselves out with these bursts of outreach and growth, but to really accept the cyclical nature of building a small business and to remember that even though we operate within the system that we're trying to challenge, and while we still have to pay rent and bills and keep ourselves fed, we have a lot of choices and we can do things differently. So I'm launching a new course this month with the working title Holistic Business Magic, and it's really for creators. It's for people who maybe are about to start a small business or already have one but are kind of struggling to make it work, or maybe are transitioning into doing that full-time or part-time or whatever, really. So it's going to be this beautiful container for people to explore what that means and to really think about the ethics and the values that are underpinning the work that they're wanting to do. So I'm going to teach practical things like building software systems, having a good website, working with social media, using hashtags, all that kind of stuff. But I'm also going to look at things like purpose, sustainability and cash, self-care for small business owners, creating sustainable offerings that feel really good, building an audience and finding the right people. And I've decided to offer this to Patreon supporters, so you can, when the course is out next month, buy it kind of as a one-off payment, which I'm not sure how much that will be yet, but I'll let you know. But the cheaper and kind of more monthly payment option would be to become a Patreon with $11 or more in the next 2 weeks before the course will officially launch, and then you get early access. And so you just pledge $11 a month, and you can do that as long as you wish. The course value as a one-off payment will be a lot higher, and so this is really kind of an extension of trust. You can, in theory, if you want to, just pledge $11 once and then never do it again, and that's okay, because I do want to offer this on a sliding scale, and if that's all you can afford, that's totally fine. I'm not gonna ever question that. But if you want to attend the free monthly webinars and you feel like you're benefiting from the course and the work that I do in an ongoing way, then you're welcome to pledge support a little bit longer than that. Okay, sorry to be so lengthy. I will leave you to listen to today's show now. Thank you so much for listening and staying with me and for all your support. I love that so much, and I would love to hear from you on Instagram if you have any thoughts. Have a beautiful new moon. Bye. Hey everyone. I know, I always say this. I'm super excited about my guest today. It's Molly, who's also known as the Firebrand Witch. They are incredible at a lot of different things, and I am just going to do my little fangirl intro as I always do. So we met on Instagram. I can't remember how. I must have come across their account in some way by searching some kind of witchy hashtag, I guess. And I really immediately loved their writing about mental health and magic and just the wildness of the human experience as a whole. And then we got to know each other a little bit better, which is really cool and inspiring. And yeah, just really enjoyed seeing their business journey unfold and seeing what kind of business and magic that they're doing. And I also received 2 readings from them. So I received a birth chart reading, which was the first I've ever had. And it was incredible. Like, I listened to it on my overland journey from Germany back to the UK, and I've listened to it again since, and a lot of things in my life and in my personality and my challenges make a lot more sense now, which is really cool, and I feel more connected to the universe in a really cool way. And I also received a tarot reading, which was also really, really cool and just very beautiful. So yeah, I appreciate Molly so much, and I'm really excited to share them with you. And I've got a ton of really cool questions. And before I go on and on, I'm just going to hand it over for now and let them introduce themselves.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm like blushing. Thank you. So, I am Molly Mian. I'm a Firebrand Witch. And yeah, I'm a tarot reader. I'm an astrologer. I write about mental health from my own experience, and then sometimes like generally. And I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about depersonalization disorder, which is something that I live with. And yeah, I guess that's basically me. I'm non-binary. I guess that's also maybe important. And yeah, that's it. I'm a witch.
Yes, great.
Yeah, it is.
Something I love to always ask in the beginning is, where are you in the world right now, and what is nature like around you, just so that we can kind of imagine your situation.
Yeah, so I'm in Massachusetts, in East Hampton, and nature outside is really nice right now, which is great. I'm looking out the window, and there's a blue sky, which is fantastic, and the sun is shining, which it hasn't necessarily been for the last few days. So it's really like calming. I heard a bird earlier, which is like the best. I feel like as soon as I hear birds, it's like I feel happy again. It's such a beautiful, just melody. But yeah, it's still cold, and it very much is winter. Like, I feel like the weather outside is always so reflective, or maybe better yet, my internal experience is always very reflective of the weather. You know what I mean? Influenced by. Yeah. So that's nature. That's
cool.
Nature. Yeah.
I loved how you said, when you introduced yourself, with so much confidence and certainty, that you are a witch. I think that is such a beautiful name or title to reclaim, and I would love to know what it means to you and how you came to identify as a witch.
Yeah, so wow, that's such a good question. I'm thinking about it. When did I first start identifying as a witch? I don't know. I've been interested in occult adjacent things and healing. Honestly, since I was 10. I remember reading about astrology online. Because I grew up on the internet. It's weird, but the internet raised me for better or for worse. And so I feel and my mom also reads tarot cards, so I kind of grew up around that. And so I feel I didn't necessarily I wasn't raised with this idea that the word witch is a bad thing. It kind of often was just a neutral word for me personally. And then when I got to college, I would whip out my cards, every once in a while to try to make friends in the beginning. And I feel from there was just this kind of tongue in cheek, maybe a little bit ironic at the time, identification of yeah, I'm a witch, I'm intuitive and I can, I know more than you think. And then as I kind of grew and expanded and kind of let the hyper rational kind of brain that I had grown and like kind of crafted for myself, like kind of just slip away and be like, you know what? I'm actually like really spiritual. Like this isn't just a little joke or party trick. You know what I mean? Like this is actually really meaningful to me. I really opened up and was like, yeah, you know, I kind of am a witch. And I don't know, it has so much power. I love the word witch, and yeah. So I guess maybe in the last like 5 years, and then when I just changed my name to the Firebrand Witch, my business name, about 6 months ago, and that felt really good. It felt like, it really did feel sort of like a reclamation of so much of what I have been told is wrong about me. And so it's really powerful for me to be able to use that word to describe who I am.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. I resonate a lot with that. I think I'm a tiny bit older than you, so I think the internet came into my life a little bit later. But I also feel like I've been raised by both my dog and the internet.
That's awesome.
Yes. I would love to touch on, just because, I mean, I'm just going to sneak in here with my own thoughts for a minute.
Oh, totally. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
I really have been thinking a lot about the idea lately of like trends, and because I think that there's always a tiny part of me that is like, am I just making this up? Is this all super pretentious? And I feel like more and more people identify as witches, and more people get into the tarot. And the largest part of me just absolutely loves that. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think that trends happen for a reason. And we are living under ridiculously, incredibly painful circumstances right now in many ways. Though we do also have a lot of privileges. You and I are white. But it's just a challenging time. And I think this rediscovery of earth-based spirituality, and especially as queers, finding some belonging in a spiritual community has been incredibly important to me. And I just wish that for everyone. So I'm like, yeah, let's make it a trend, because most of the trends I know of are just not as healing and positive for people. Yeah. So these are my 5 cents.
Those are great 5 cents. I'll take all of those. That's awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that's a really good point. There's like, it's like witchiness and the word witch and all of that really is like, it is trending, I guess. Again, like for better or for worse. And I think that there is a lot of better. Like it is really, I don't know, like it is. I love like Chani Nicholas, what she tweeted, like the revolution will be healing. And I want that to go viral. You know what I mean? Like I want like witchiness and healing to go viral. Like please, you know, that's not to say that there's not issues with appropriation, because that is rife, you know, that's really important to interrogate. But yeah, I'm really into, I don't know. And then I feel like, you know, people will get into more of like the mainstream kind of witchiness, and then hopefully that can bring them to the more like grounded and historical realities and like mythology that we kind of work from. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. That is very exciting.
Yeah.
I would love to know a little bit more about, like, what do you love about astrology the most, and what is your individual approach? Because that seems to be a big source of magic for you. I love reading your horoscopes, and as I said, like my birth chart reading was just like such a revelation. And yeah, so I'm really interested, like, how did you get into astrology, and what do you really love about it?
Yeah. I'm also like, I'm so glad to know that the birth chart reading resonated. It makes me so happy. But so astrology. So yeah, I mean, I guess I said I kind of got into it really young, and then I didn't really study it super intensely until the last maybe like 4 years or so. But what I love about it, it's the way that I love astrology is different from how I love tarot. Like astrology feels really ancient. I mean, it is really ancient. And I don't know, like it makes me feel so connected to something. And I'm not interested in history. Like it's something that I'm really embarrassed about, but I can't. Like, I've tried to get super into history, and the only two things that have ever really like made me be able to sit down and listen and absorb historical information is sociology and astrology. It creates a story, and I feel like that is what I love about astrology is the ability to really take like pull from like collective mythology and pull from archetype and create narrative and bring so much healing. And it's like every astrology reading that I do and every like horoscope that I write, it's like this mini research project, but it's still super intuitive and it's still like an interpretive art. And I just feel like it's the perfect blend for me of analytical and creative, because I do have like this really not to say I don't think that astrology is like scientific per se, but I think that the way that we do it is it's like a science and an art, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yes.
Yeah, and so that's that. And so I guess my approach is like psychological and spiritual, but I also like recently have been super interested in mundane astrology, which is just like the astrology of world events, and the idea of just like using astrology to kind of like like predict world events feels really fun. Like I wouldn't want to do that like and charge, I think, just like as a hobby. You know what I mean? Like it's really interesting. So I guess that's my astrological love and
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you so much.
yeah.
I also really love your tarot readings, and I think for me in the past few years, it's been so beautiful to get to know as many different reading styles as possible. And I really loved yours. So I would love to hear a little bit more about that side of your practice. How do you read for yourself and how do you read for others? And do you feel that there's anything maybe unusual to your approach or something like that?
Yeah, thanks. Also, I love your tarot readings, by the way. Like I think I have gotten like 2 or 3 from you, right? And oh my God, I don't know. Like you just have such a like soothing voice when you give readings. It's so calming. Because I feel like I'm not usually that way when I do readings. I'm a little bit more like frantic. So it's kind of like nice to just be like, oh, I'm like at the spa. You know what I mean? So yeah, and such brilliant insights. But anyway, I guess I'll talk about me, I guess. But so the way that I do tarot, I guess I'll bring the idea of narrative back in. Like it feels like I've been doing tarot for I think maybe going on 9 years now. So it's intuitive to me at this point. I just like look at a spread and I can kind of very quickly see how it's moving. And that is like the best. When I get a spread that really flows in that way, it just feels so good. And it almost feels like sometimes when I'm reading for people, especially when I'm reading in person, it's like it's not even me sometimes, you know what I mean? Like I kind of just go into this space where I'm talking and then I come back and I'm like, did that make sense? You know what I mean? Yeah. But definitely a lot of intuition, and just I love the imagery. I love what different decks can bring, by way of different energy, you know what I mean? And how they resonate with us, like, and different emotional moments in our lives. I guess I don't know if there's anything particularly unique that I do with tarot, like that I don't know. I mean, I guess we all have our unique style, but just a lot of love and intuition. Yeah. I would love to hear about you and how you work with tarot.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. It's funny because I had another conversation with someone called Vanessa Sage today where we talked a lot about approaches, so I had to already put it into words once today, which is useful. Yeah. And I think to me, I've loved the tarot for a long time, and I've only been reading for other people for about a year now. And well, I had been obviously reading for other friends before, but professionally I've only been reading for a year now. And I think there's been a lot of shifts in what was important to me in the cards. I think in the beginning it was just about really journaling a lot and just getting stuff out of my system and onto paper, which was really helpful for my mental health. I really liked the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and I found it quite hard in the beginning to really get into the practice of doing morning pages, and just drawing a card every morning was really helpful to have like a starting point to reflect on and then take it from there. And usually things flow so much easier for me if I draw a card for myself in the day. And now what's become more important to me is to use the tarot as a really powerful tool for survivors or people who are healing quite deep stuff. I think that it can be so beautiful and empowering to have our stories reflected back at us. And in another recent interview I did with Sally Earthwork, we talked about, and actually we cried about this, like there were actually tears coming up because it was
gosh.
Yeah. We were like, what is so powerful about the cards is that you get to believe yourself and you get to have this framework to explore your own story and your experiences, and there's no one. I think that it really helps to kind of drown out this little voice in our head. And it's like, oh, maybe it wasn't that bad, or like maybe you're making that stuff up. And I think, the tarot can be really incredible for that. And when I'm reading for other people, what I love the most at the moment is that it creates this framework for me to really witness and come to the space with like a lot of loving attention and just presence and just a listening ear. I think that in the beginning I was probably more worried about like getting it right, and like finding the perfect interpretation of a card. And the more I'm doing it, the more I feel that actually what really people need is like someone to hold space for them. And it doesn't always have to be perfect, and it doesn't always have to be a super positive message. Sometimes it's really good to sit with someone and be like, yeah, man, that really sucks. I'm so sorry that happens to you, and I believe you can get through this, and let's look at what you can do. And so I've never found a more powerful tool to do that for people than the tarot. And so I feel really committed to it and feel that it's going to be something that will always be with me. And I am 32 now, and I've for a really long time super struggled with what my purpose is in life. And like I tried so many different jobs. I started working when I was 11, so over 20 years ago, and I can't tell you how many different things I've tried and how long I worked for minimum wages. But I now feel like with the tarot and with web design, I've really come home, and I'm up for doing this for a really long time, and that in itself feels very exciting to me. Yeah,
that's so exciting. I love all of that. That's so, like, I feel like that is so very much what comes through in your reading is like all of that. That was really nice to hear. Yeah, and I feel like that made me think, and I think I maybe have this written on my site or something, but like I love thinking about tarot pretty much exactly like you said, like as this reflective tool, because I have this like theory, and I've talked about this once before with like a friend long ago, but same thing with astrology, with tarot and astrology, like it's like they're mirrors, and they're mirrors so often used by and like used with people that, for example, have been through trauma, or their identities have been, squashed and not represented. And like, I don't know, like having tarot and astrology kind of reflect us back is such powerful healing. It's like medicine, you know what I mean? Yeah. To kind of be like, this is, I see you, like to be seen in that way is so powerful. It's like a mirror. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, me too. Oh.
I know.
Yeah. I would love to kind of tie this in with your business story a little bit. So,
Yeah.
something I really want to share is that you inspired me so much to start my Patreon, and I would love to talk about yours a little bit more as well. And so, at the end of last year, and we're recording this in January 2018, by the way. So at the end of last year, I was kind of thinking about ways in which I could offer long-term, low-cost support for people to experience their own magic and like feel a bit inspired and have a bit of a framework to explore stuff. And I was initially thinking about offering a membership program through Teachable or something, and to charge a monthly fee, and then send out this little ritual kit to people. And had toyed with the idea of Patreon, but it kind of hadn't really come together for me. And then I saw yours and I was like, oh my God, that is so brilliant, and just felt really inspired by it, because I think that Patreon is really, the way it's set up, it's such a beautiful platform. It feels to me like we are pledging emotional and energetic and financial support to each other, and it's a very different energy in that transaction. It's more like, hey, I believe in your work, I believe in your magic and your creativity, and I want to support you in a long-term way. And it's not at all about the amount of the pledges. I feel like the number of people that have supported me, just every single one of them just really means the world to me. And and it feels more sustainable, and I also feel really committed to serving my community there. It's not like someone bought this one-off thing of me and it's this cold cash transaction and then we all go our own ways. It's more this like, we're in this together, and people can opt in and out all the time. And I'm totally up for people changing their mind. That's cool. But there's also this element of like being in it together, which is really beautiful. So sorry, I have
No, that's great.
Actually, like sometimes have a really long-winded way of asking questions.
No, it's great. I love it.
What I was going to ask you is like, can you tell us a bit more about what this transition was like for you from having a job and then starting your business on the side and then quitting your job and starting the Patreon, and like how does it feel? Like, what does it feel like for you? What are the challenges, and what are your wishes for the year?
Yeah, totally. So I was working full time. I guess I'll start there. So I was working full time for the last 2 years since, I guess, two and a half years, 2 years. I graduated college in 2015. Yeah. Anyway, so I started working like 2016, and then I just wrapped up. Or I don't know. Anyway, the dates. I was working for 2 years full time. And then it got to the point where I was just like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I like the person that I work for. I like my coworkers, and I kind of like my job some days, but it's also like kind of killing me. So, and meanwhile, my interest in tarot and particularly astrology was really like waxing. And I kind of had like a crisis where I was like, I need to do something else. Like, I can't keep working in like higher ed administration, right? I just can't. And so, so then I made the gradual and painful decision to leave. And I started really building up my tarot reading business in, I think, like July, August. I really put some serious, I guess, elbow grease into it. And then I left my job in September. And it's been a challenge, and it's particularly like financially, it's pretty frightening. And I went down. So actually, what I did is I went down to part-time. So if anyone's planning on doing something like this, if you're able to, I highly recommend going down to part-time work for a little while and having like sort of a leeway period if you can. Because that kind of gave me like the financial security at that time to, I had like the financial security as I was expanding. And that was really helpful. Like, I don't know what I would have done if I just kind of quit cold turkey. I'd probably have to go back and temp, which I might still have to do that, but it doesn't feel as, frightening. But so having Patreon has been really, really good. And pretty much just everything that you said is really spot on. Like, it's kind of like there's this little community that kind of, you know, supports you. And I love, like, each month I've been sending out to some of my $10 plus patrons. I do like a 1-card reading, and like we have a conversation, you know what I mean? And that's really nice because like it's like I can expect that every month, and I can build this relationship with people, and it feels so meaningful because like that's, you know, like that's what I want to be doing. You know what I mean? Connecting with people in that way and being able to really, work directly and continually is really, really lovely. And so I guess does that, I don't know.
Yeah, that's beautiful to hear.
Yeah.
Do you maybe want to tell us a little bit more about what your days look like and what you're wishing for the year?
Yeah. So my days right now, it's a lot. I'm doing a lot of writing, which is also so nice because I spent a lot of years really like blocked in terms of writing. Like I just wouldn't let myself write anything other than like essays and analytical papers and stuff like that. And so since kind of opening back up to my spiritual, process, I've also been able to open up to writing. And so most of my day is like I'll wake up and I like to, you know, I'll be writing horoscopes, or I'll be writing the weekly tarot. And something else that I'm actually doing is I'm doing some like WordPress support for people, like building kind of basic websites, which is really fun. So some of my days involve that. And I'm not a person who has a very rigid structure to my life at all. I don't often do well when I don't have like a lot of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, my days themselves are very variable, but I would say that I'm usually putting in between like 6 to 10 hours a day probably.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like fun work, you know, like I'm not just sitting at my desk doing somebody else's, you know, admin support. Like I get to do kind of all of it, and it's really, really nice. It's challenging and it's fun, and sometimes it's lonely, but then sometimes it's like amazing. And it's just such a different experience, and I much prefer being self-employed, even when it's a struggle, to the 9 to 5, 5 day a week.
Yeah, me too. I think there's a different there's a German word I know which doesn't really help us very much right now. But it's like this concept of stress that's caused by someone else feels very different on the body than stress that you're causing yourself. And obviously I don't want either of these things. And I think there's so much to say about like being an entrepreneur and self-care and unlearning this idea that only a 40-hour week really counts, and like everything else is like weak part-time work. I want to like kill all of that.
Yeah, I know.
But also, it really does feel very different if you have autonomy about your rhythms and your day. And something I really appreciate about working for myself is this just sense of independence and like not being at the mercy of someone else. That's something I found incredibly stressful working for other people, and just felt a lot of vulnerability around that. And I still get stressed sometimes, definitely, and I sometimes work really long days. But just the freedom to listen to my body a little bit. Like earlier today, I had 3 calls today, which is a lot. Like that's my max. And on the second call, for whatever reason, it was scheduled for 90 minutes, but one person couldn't show up. So I was like, I think an hour will be enough. And you know what? I'm going to have a half-hour nap. And it was so good.
Yeah.
And, just thinking back of like, the days that I was in full-time employment and was studying part-time, there's no way I would have never had a chance to nap. And my weekends would go for laundry and groceries and tidying the house. And so napping was just not a thing. And now napping is like my thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and exactly. It's so nice to be able to have that autonomy. I love that's a really good word to describe it. And and you know, like, I mean, I'm like a super like sensitive person to other people's emotions, right? So like being in a work environment, like I was working in a dean's office, which is a really high stress environment for grad school. You know what I mean? Because there's like people that come in and they're having a difficult time. There are people that are coming in and they're frustrated. There are people that are coming in and are really excited. And it's just like all of these emotional extremes that I felt like I was doing a really good job of kind of like not, you know, taking on. But inevitably I did. And it totally wrecked me. You know what I mean? And I just, you know, part of that is like maybe better boundary and protection, you know, protection magic even, but it's just, I don't know. And then always having to be on, you know what I mean? Like I'm not a person that's like going to be smiling all the time. I just can't do it. And, I even though like I'd love to like laugh 24/7, but, some days I just need to, like you said, go take a nap, you know what I mean? And that's part of like living with, for me, like part of what I love about doing like my own work and being kind of like independently employed is that I have flexibility when it comes to having mental health stuff. I mean, that it comes with its own struggles with like health insurance and all of that. But right now where I am in my life, it feels a little bit safer than having to push through stuff when it comes up without dealing with it head on.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. God, I can't imagine that would have been hard. Oh God.
I know. It's yes. So it's good to get a break. And I kind of gave myself January. So like, for example, like right now, January is super slow for me, and it's intentionally like I haven't really tried to book a lot of work. I've kind of just like done what I have to do to be able to, you know, money-wise, like afford what I need to get by, so that I can just rest, you know, because it's been a wacky year. And like, it's been, you know, just so much transition. Like, so I left the job, and then I also like moved in with my partner in March, and that was a whole to do with the people that I was moving away from. And so it's just like, I was like, you know what? My body and my mind are asking me to stop. So I'm just gonna honor that. And so I did. And it's been helping. Yeah.
That's so great. Yeah. I love that. Talking about magic, and you briefly touched on protection magic, for example, which really always like excites me very much. I'm like, I have so much to learn about boundaries. I'm so into them. That shit. I wonder, kind of thinking about people listening to this and thinking like, wow, Molly is so magic. How can I be like that? What do you wish everyone knew about magic? Like, what words of encouragement would you give people that are kind of getting interested in magic and want to make a start?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So just trust, like just do it. You know, I feel like if you're interested in getting into it, just try. You know what I mean? A lot of the time when I think of like, you know, maybe the question like, what do I want people to know about magic? I think of like the naysayers, but that's also just like my brain. I'm always thinking about critics, but like, and so to them, I'm like, it doesn't matter if it's scientific or not, if it works. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but for people that are like genuinely open to it and want to, you know, just dig into the work of doing healing, just go for it. You know, like just trust your intuition. That's been the most healing thing. Like the reason that I am here right now is because I worked with a therapist who like sat me down and was like, Molly, you're really sensitive. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you're really sensitive. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And she's like, yes, you are. And it's fine. And like, just go with it. And so to everyone who I know and everyone who's listening, if you are a sensitive person, that is okay. And it comes with so many gifts. And I mean that, not like I have gifts, but like it's just, it comes with so many kind of blessings and hardships. But, just open up to it. It's safe. You're safe. It's going to be okay.
Yeah. I agree. That is really beautiful. Yes. I have one more funny question that I want to make this a regular question as well, but you get to be the first one. Ta-da!
Yay!
Do you have a tarot card that you identify with at the moment?
I do. Yeah, I do. The Hanged Man is where I'm at right now.
Ooh.
And yeah, I totally am. And it's weird. It came up in a reading that I pulled for myself, which I actually don't read for myself very often, but I did because I feel like I can't, I can't zoom out. But anyway, that's a different thing. The Hanged Man, because I feel like kind of maybe what I just said is kind of shows that, I'm in this moment where I just have to surrender to where I'm at. And that's really hard because I like to go. I like to be intense worker, but right now I just need to surrender to the process and to whatever is happening. And I've hit so many junctions over the last year where it's like, okay, this isn't working. You need to try something else. And that's super Hangman for me.
Yeah. That is beautiful. I love that. I've had the Hangman in a reading recently and I was like, oh, my friend, I had missed you. Amazing.
I was gonna say, what about you? Do you have a tarot card that you're identifying with?
I feel like identity-wise, a lot of stuff has shifted for me in the last 2 years, and had a lot to do with gender and my brain and my work in the world. And so I feel at the moment like the dust of my Saturn return is settling. I'm going to take a new name on the upcoming blue moon next Wednesday. So I can't say that I have a card that's been with me in the last couple of years because there's been so much exciting change. But I've chosen a card to work with this year, and actually, I can share this practice really quickly. So I chose a card to work with for the year. And then each month I will draw 2 cards, one on what to invite and what to release in order to come closer to the energy of that card and work with it and really understand it. And the card I chose is the King of Pentacles. And to me, understanding this card, I hope, is about learning what stability and abundance means and kind of really bringing that earthy energy into my life. Because as you know, since you've done my birth chart, I am a bit earthy and I'm very watery. And so I think I've always had a challenging relationship to money. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. And so I'm now, as an entrepreneur, learning to really manage my money and think about the future and create sustainable structures for myself and learning to trust that there will be enough. I think that's a really big one for me. And I also really, really love the experience of being generous with other people. I think something that weirdly gives me a lot of gender euphoria is this feeling of being a provider. That's really what I want. I want to provide food and nice experiences and presents to people, and I want the people I love, including myself, to be safe. And so that's what I'm trying to learn from the King of Pentacles. And one thing that came up in the first reading I did in January, which was really cool, was that the King of Pentacles is not the devil. And I think there's a lot to unpack in that, and this idea that wanting money and stability is somehow bad or evil. And really trying to unlearn that. So that's gonna be exciting.
That's awesome. I really love that. That's really important to learn on a personal and I think probably also spiritual and collective level.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Before we go, I would love to share what you're offering and where people can find you. And maybe you can touch on a little bit also on like the practicalities of Patreon, because I do get a lot of questions about that. And I would love for people to know what it means to support your Patreon. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can find my offerings. I do tarot readings. I have, I think, maybe like 6 different offerings for that, and they're all on sliding scale on the firebrandwitch.com. And I'm also starting to offer birth chart readings, and that'll be on the firebrandwitch.com as well. But so Patreon is patreon.com/thefirebrandwitch. But what it is like you pledge. So for example, if you pledge $5 a month, you will get, every first of the month, you'll be charged $5. And then for me, I offer full moon and new moon rituals for anybody who pledges $5 or more a month. And yeah, those come out, so you'll get like 2 of these, like pretty much they're usually like 20-page like explanations and of what the moon cycle, like what that moon is about, and then horoscopes, a ritual suggestion, reflection questions, and yeah, so you get 2 of those a month for $5, and then I have some more things where I do tarot readings as well as transit astrology readings. Yeah,
They're really beautiful. I'm receiving them and I really, really love them. And where can people find you on social media? I know you are on Instagram a lot, as am I, and so I would love for people to know where you are on there.
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm the Firebrand Witch, and I'm like newly on Twitter, kind of. So I'm there as just Firebrand Witch, but Instagram is like really where I do most of my living and working.
Let's be real. That's just
yeah, I know. It's come on, it's just Instagram. But yeah. But yeah, and also I love your monthly magic. I received that, and that is amazing. It's really, really beautiful. It's just like your tarot readings. It's so grounding. Like, yeah.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Molly. It's been really beautiful to speak to you. I feel like maybe we'll do another recording sometime later in the year. That would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I feel like I could probably, I could just keep talking to you. You know what I mean? So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing and coming and making the time. I agree, it feels like there's a lot more to say, but I want to respect people's attention span.
I know.
But let's meet again and talk some more. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.